My name is Debbie Wilson. I'm superintendent of Prospect Heights School District 23. I've been with the district about 25 years. I started as an assistant and teaching here. I think the reason I stayed is because of the people. And after the events of today and visiting with so many of the people who taught here, worked here, went to school here, it just really reaffirms that what is so special about this district is the people. I think if you look through the archives, you can see we really started from very humble beginnings with 7 people deciding this area needed a school. And they had the foresight and vision, and they levied for $700 and a school district was built. Again though, as you look through all the histories and you look through the history of the PTA and you look through the history of the articles in the paper, it really is about the people in this community. And I have so enjoyed visiting with all of them this afternoon. And I'm hoping again that we can do something like this in the future.
My name is Angelo Chu. I'm the assistant superintendent here in Prospect Heights District 23. And my reflections on the celebration of 150 years is simply that you see the relationships and the connections that are formed over time, the bonds that are made between classmates, through colleagues, and it's just a great opportunity to celebrate the fact that we are a community of learners. And so it really strikes you when you take a minute and step back, the impact that schools can have on a community. And so I'm just honored and very blessed to be a part of that here in Prospect Heights District 23 now, and have had a great time planning. We hope that everyone had a very enjoyable visit. Our opportunities to connect with folks as they've walked through have been really rewarding from my side of things. Really nice to get to meet some alums, some families, some current families, as well as families that are coming by to take a preview of the school. They don't have kids in our schools yet, but they will in the near future. So I think it's been a very exciting opportunity for us to celebrate together, and just thank all of our partners for helping to make that possibility.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Peters. I am president of the Board of Education for Prospect Heights School District 23. Thank you for watching this video today and sharing in our 150th years here as a school district. And a couple things I wanted to touch on today, things we've accomplished on the Board of Education over the past 9 years while I've been on the Board of Education. Just some wonderful, wonderful achievements. We have increased the number of students that get to attend our full day kindergarten program. We're at about 50% right now, and hopefully we will be able to expand that in the future to include more students. Another exciting achievement over the past 9 years is we converted our schools, our 4 schools, Eisenhower, Ross, Sullivan, MacArthur, to grade level centers. And that has been wonderfully successful, and has just really brought, I think, unity from students entering from pre-K all the way through 8th grade, because they stay with their classes throughout the whole their whole time with the district. Another really successful thing we have done over the past 9 years is converted the school district to a geothermal source for our heating and cooling here in all the buildings. We haven't had air conditioning. We did not have air conditioning in 3 of the 4 schools ever until over the past few years. We started the project at MacArthur, carried it over to Ross and Sullivan, and we have expanded the air conditioning just this past year at Eisenhower. And I think the benefits of that are just enormous as far as an energy savings. It's green for the environment. It also allows us to use the buildings over the summer if necessary. There's talk of changing the school year at 214, and so of course we would probably follow suit with changing the school year, where we may have more days of attendance in August when it's very hot, and so now everyone will have air conditioning. Going forward, the Board of Education. Again, hopefully we will be able to offer full-day kindergarten to all, and just so many exciting opportunities ahead of us. I'm not sure what those will all be, but we look forward to another 150 years of greatness within School District 23. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Tom Rich. I was hired in 1958 as a 8th grade English and Social Studies teacher at the North School. In my first classes, I had 2 sections. One was 41 students, the other section had 40 students. They were some of the best children I ever taught, outstanding young men and women, girls and boys. I had a great class. And I taught for until I think it was 64, and I was named principal. First I started out as a head teacher, and then I became a principal. I was the first principal of MacArthur Junior High School, and I served in that capacity till about 1969 when I was appointed assistant superintendent. I lived in the area. I lived over in Arlington Vista. I have 2 sons, Tom and Tim. Both went to District 23 and got a very good education. I think that my fondest memories are the people that I work with here, the teachers, and the other fond memory are the students that I had. And they are lifelong memories. After I left District 26, I went on and I was a superintendent in Road School in River Grove, and then in 1980 I came back and I was superintendent of River Trails for 14 years. And after I retired in 1994, I went back and was an interim superintendent in 6 different districts. And in 2003, I finally retired for good. And it was nice sharing this information with District 23, and thank them for putting this whole thing together.
Hi, I'm Greg Corrine. My last position in the school district was superintendent. I was superintendent for 9 years, but I spent a total of 23 years in District 23. So when I first started, it was MacArthur was a junior high, and I was able to have the privilege of working with the MacArthur staff to turn it into a middle school. So those are some fond memories of trying to work on those kinds of things. But being in the district for a long time, I had the opportunity to meet and hire many staff members, and it was just a lot of fun to work with folks. We've done so much in the district in the years that I was here. Some of my best recollections were working with the superintendent who preceded me, Ron Bearwald, and Ron was a great superintendent, and we worked together for, I'm not sure how many years, but we worked together for a number of years, and we accomplished a lot and did a lot of things. And then Ron retired, and I had the opportunity to take over after him, which were some big shoes to fill. But during the time we did that, we got the finances. We were in situations where we needed to work on the budget. We always had financial issues in the district that needed to be worked on. And we corrected a lot of those problems over time and without passing bond referendums, which is always interesting in District 23. But we got through a lot of those tough times, did well, and then I was fortunate enough to be here with the reorganization of the school district, where we went from attendance centers to grade level centers. And so the last few years I was here, was able to help out with the grade level center reconfiguration, and that was a good thing. That I think also helped the school district with getting things together. It was very nice. Good thing to do. Good for the students, good for the community, and all the taxpayers and that kind of thing. But The people are, I've been retired 3 years now, and the people are the folks who we, probably miss the most. We have, I still get to see some folks every now and then, but we have times together. We get to remember doing things, the plays that we put on with the kids, and some of that we did with the staff. Those are always fun. The music programs here are always tremendous and wonderful things. So it's always good to be able to catch up with staff and see staff. This 150th is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm so glad that Debbie Wilson and staff were able to put this together, put it on. It's just marvelous. Some of the former teachers have come back. I just saw Mary Ann Duderstadt, who was here in the district for many, many years. Skip Marshall, former principal at Eisenhower. Got to see him, and some other folks. So it's really nice to be able to get into the district. So many renovations have been done with the buildings, and we are just doing a lot of good things for a lot of people. So it's good to be here.
Hello, I'm Luke Lambada, the principal at Dwight D. Eisenhower Elementary School. And when I think about District 23, I think about the 8 years I've been here. And actually, when I first came here, Dwight D. Eisenhower Elementary School was still a K-5 building. And 5 years ago, the district moved to a full grade level configuration, and Dwight D. Eisenhower became a pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade building. And throughout this time, we've able to bring together staff from other buildings to be a part of the Eisenhower staff to develop a new mission and create a new center for learning. And we're very proud of what we've created. But I think back to when I came here, and I think about all the changes that we've gone through, from moving from one Eisenhower PTO to a District 23 EPTO of all 3 grade level center buildings, and how wonderfully that's worked out. The fact that we're now using curriculum established throughout all the grade levels the same way, that we have team planning time for all the grade level teams, and that there's a true collaboration among teachers is wonderful. And the grade level center philosophy has really come to a wonderful fruition for us. As I think back to first coming here, Dr. Greg Corrine was the superintendent. Mr. Riccawanio was the business manager. And I think about Eisenhower School. Over the last year, we've had a remodeling project. But when I first came here, you could actually see the beams in the classroom, and the beams supported the ceiling, which was actually the roof of the classroom. And now we actually have a drop ceiling with lights and air conditioning vents and units that serve all the classrooms. Not that the building wasn't air conditioned in the past, but we have a new system that's obviously more beneficial for us and works better. But when I first came here and we were looking at the grounds and the building and just seeing everything, it was really original to 1968, most of the building. And then in 1996, they remodeled the building and added a library that was moved to the far east side of the building from the middle of the building, which used to be kind of like a loft library with a railing. Now in the middle of the building, there's these blue partition walls where we hang the students' artwork. And below is a multi-purpose room for students with varying needs. And not too far from there, we have our art and music room. But that whole wing of the building was added just about 19 years ago. And we picked up, let's see, 3 classrooms, 3 office areas for support staff, and a new library which doubled the size of the existing library, added a computer lab, added a reading corner, which has actually been transitioned into a reading lab area for our reading support specialist. And I just think about all the changes over the last 8 years and how the staff and district have moved together. The community has supported the move, and it's just been a wonderful growth and transition into this new Dwight D. Eisenhower Elementary School. It was funny, just a few minutes ago, I came from the building from the 150th anniversary celebration, and Skip Marshall, the former principal who had been there for 27 years, was taking a look at the building, and he could remember the times when, you know, most of the parking lot was grass, the playground was gravel, there was no field. The area behind the school was actually owned by the district and used for district vehicles and supplies and maintenance, and now it's homes. And some of my staff members who've recently retired began in the district in 1975. Actually, one of my staff members, Nancy Herzick, retired a few years back. Her mother-in-law was the original principal of Dwight D. Eisenhower School in 1968. And we still have photos of Ms. Herzick designing the school with the architects and the superintendent and the school board at the time, which was funded through the state. And the thing about Eisenhower at the time was they were building it over technically old swamplands, from what I heard, and they had to fill in the area. There's a creek not too far, and that's one of the reasons why our parking lot in the back is so small, is because they worry about that creek over flooding and affecting a larger parking area. I guess the only other thing I can think about Eisenhower School that's unique to it is we're one of the few schools with a full garden in the front, which was started by two of our teachers, Margaret N. Haas, who retired a few years ago, and she had started, I think, in the district in 1972, and Dara Saunders, who had taught in the building for 20 years and was head of our student senate and worked with the PTO very intimately. Both those teachers had a vision for a student garden, and students would grow vegetables and other crops and pull them and cook with them and make quite a few different dishes with the students of what they grew in that garden. And we have other staff members that have carried on that legacy. And just a few years ago, we had a former Eagle Scout, Matt Helminski, who designed and built the shed in the front of the building. It's blue and brown, right next to the garden on the west side of the garden, as his Eagle project. And he had gone to Eisenhower from kindergarten age through 5th grade. And when he got to high school, he came back and he wanted to build the shed for Ms. Haas and Ms. Saunders so they could store their tools and they wouldn't have to bring everything from home because the building was out of room. But it's just been a wonderful district and building to be in because of all the community support, of all the teacher legacies that have left behind, Mr. Marshall's legacies, and the fact that people find it the type of place where they want to be for a very long time. And they have very strong ties to the district. And I'm just very fortunate that I get to work in such a small, tight-knit community and with such a wonderful team of administrators and wonderful staff members and supporting community members. It's just a wonderful place to be. I know our motto is, it's a wonderful place for a child to grow, and you know, it truly is. And I don't want that to sound cliche because it's not. It really is a wonderful place to grow in. Well, I just hope we can see you at our next anniversary celebration. Hopefully not 150 years from now, but hopefully in the next 10 or 25 years. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Craig Curtis, and I'm the principal at Betsy Ross School, where I've had the privilege of being the principal for 4 years now. And I love being a part of Prospect Heights District 23. I've always enjoyed being a part of smaller districts simply because I just feel like the close-knit relationship that you can have there with your students, staff, faculty, and the administration is just something that you don't get in larger districts. Here, since I've been in the district, some of the connections that I've seen have come through our events, such as we do an event at Betsy Ross every year that's related to our STAR Values program, which teaches students that being safe, respectful, and responsible are the core values within our school. And we do several events, but one of our events to kick off the year is usually either a pep assembly or we've also done an ice bucket challenge. And for an example of the close knit relationship we have around our district is just simply at the spur of the moment, I may be running short on teachers to participate in the assembly, and I could just put in a quick phone call across the district, and I could call the MacArthur principal, one of the principals in one of the other buildings, or even the superintendent or assistant superintendent, and ask them if they'll participate. And even an event like the Ice Bucket Challenge, which you would think, well, a superintendent may not want to participate in that, but in our district, our assistant superintendent participated in that in the drop of a dime. Even though he was wearing his nice clothes, he participated in that immediately without hesitation. So that's something you probably wouldn't get in a larger school district, but we're lucky enough to have that here in District 23. Some of the things that I like best about our district and about our school in particular, Betsy Ross, number one would be our Star Values program at Betsy Ross. I feel as though our Star Values program really allows our kids to, I guess, strive as individuals and truly learn the meaning of being safe, respectful, and responsible individuals. They learn those values, they grow to be good citizens, and they have a great deal of fun along the way. We have some fantastic assemblies, including our March Madness basketball tournament that teachers participate in, and students also participate in quarter events and halftime events, and it's just a blast to see the students' pride and participation along the way. We also have a tug of strength assembly that the students have a lot of fun with. Just seeing them cheer on their fellow classmates, and all of those events are a celebration of their success throughout each month with being safe, responsible, and respectful. So those are just some of the exciting things that we do related to the Star Values program. And some of the other events that we do at Betsy Ross, because of our district, they have to do with needy families and with helping others. I think because of the closeness of our families and just the caring of our district, we're able to run events and be very successful with those events. For the past, well, ever since I've been there, we've done a Pennies for Patients campaign each year, and we've raised money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And each year, our program has become more and more successful. This year, we were able to raise over $6,400 for that charity. Through that charity, we teach the kids all about leukemia and lymphoma and what it means and how they can help people with that disease, and what it does to someone, and how they can just help someone who's suffering from a disease in general, whether it's that disease or another disease. We also tell them how important it is to just help anyone in need, and they really get that message, and they really want to help others and care for other people. So this year was very successful. Not only do we teach students about it, but we provide them rewards for meeting their goals, and we do fun projects as rewards along the way as well. So it's a great deal of fun. They raise money, they tell their families all about it, they do projects to tell the community about it, and then we also have another, I guess, project or campaign that we do for needy families within our own district, because we do have some needy families closer to home. This year we called that program Helping Hands. We've called it that for the past 3 years, and that program, we help needy families in our own area and within our own school district. This year I believe we were helping 12 families. Last year I believe we helped 13 or 14 families, but basically we call needy families within our own school district and see if they would be willing to accept some support from us, and we find out what their needs are, and we basically we put out mittens for families and staff within our district to take those mittens and buy things to provide help for those families. And then once we take care of the needs of those families, then we also help to provide their wish list for those families so that they can have some of the gifts for the kids in their families that they wanted to buy for the holidays. So this is the time of the year we've actually been very successful with that, and we've provided over 400 gifts for those needy families so that they could have a holiday just as healthy as the rest of us have had. And so we were very excited to be able to do that for those families. So I think that this is a fantastic district, and I am very proud to be able to say that I'm a part of Prospect Heights District 23. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jan Travis, and I started teaching here in 1986. I started as a Title I teacher, and then I taught 3rd grade, 5th grade, and wrote a grant for the district back in the late 80s for technology. And my colleague John Tanner and I won our grant and went to Springfield for some training in technology. I started with my first Apple IIe back when I was teaching 3rd grade. And after we won the grant, I learned a lot more about technology, to the point where we had our first modem brought into Sullivan School, because that's where we were both teaching. And then we continued training teachers on technology, getting more and more computers. And eventually, so many people came into my classroom to interrupt me for computer help that they decided to make me a full-time tech coordinator. And that was really fun, because I got to teach all grade levels throughout the district and teach teachers as well. And eventually the time came where the director of technology's position opened up, and I stepped into that role, and that's where I retired from 3 years ago, director of technology in the admin building. But the district has changed as I've walked through it today. The physical changes as well as the classroom changes and the way we teach now. The whiteboards were introduced during my tenure as tech coordinator, and now they just dominate the classroom, and it's just really fun to come back and see everything that has come to fruition with technology in the last few years.
My name is Sharon Wagoner, was my maiden name. My name is Moeller now, my married name, and I graduated in the class of 1957. And then I continued, as most of my classmates, on going to Prospect High School. My family moved to Prospect Heights, and when I was 9 years old, so I started 5th grade here, and I really enjoyed living in Prospect Heights and going to grammar school in Prospect Heights, and I found the students I went to school with to be very friendly, and we did so many things together. Almost all of the girls were in Girl Scouting together, so we had a lot of good times, and we would have overnights at Camp Pine, which is in the forest preserves. There was a very large building that we would stay overnight in, and it seems to me it goes back to Camp Pine. Historically, there were some German prisoners of war that were housed in our forest preserves, and it seems to me that building may have been one of the remaining buildings, and so it was used by the Girl Scouts and perhaps Boy Scouting too, but I'm not sure. But we enjoyed those overnights, and most of us went to the same church, the Prospect Heights Community Church, and we had youth fellowship groups, and did a lot of things together, and also there were dancing classes in 7th and 8th grade on Friday nights with Dolores Eiler. She had a dance studio in Arlington Heights. So on Fridays during the school year, we would have classes in the gymnasium, and the boys would be on one side and the girls on the other, and we were taught socialization and manners and dance steps of all types. waltz, foxtrot, jitterbug, and she was a beautiful person. All the boys liked dancing with the teachers to help with instruction with the teacher, but she was lovely, and our parents would take turns being chaperones. There would be maybe 2 to 4 parents every Friday evening, and so the boys, when it was time, the boys would come over and well, we knew each other, but they would introduce themselves and ask a girl to dance, and they made sure we all had a partner. And then halfway through, we would go to the lower level, the cafeteria, for refreshments, and the boys would bring the girls a cup of whatever soda we wanted to drink or water, and so it was very nice, a very good experience. And then there was something else too. This was well, the beginning of sex education in school, but this was optional. It was in 8th grade, and it was after school, and with our parents' consent, there was the minister was Reverend Klepper, and his wife, she was also an ordained minister, and the church in town on 83 was their church, the Prospect Heights Community Church, and so they would come to this school, and Reverend Klepper had the boys in one room, and Mrs. Klepper had the girls in another room, and they would discuss the birds and the bees, and in a very, very lovely way. And if we, so that was, I think that will last for maybe, I don't know for sure, maybe a month or 2 of that voluntary instruction. So so I have wonderful memories of attending school at the Prospect Heights Grammar School, and the teachers were wonderful, really wonderful teachers, and so I appreciate that experience very much. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lynn Ekblad Stoller from the class of 1966. This is my MacArthur pin from when I graduated, proving that I am a member of the 1966 class. What I remember the most about the Prospect Heights schools was the day Kennedy was shot, and I was in 6th grade over there in this wing of the West School, we called it then, and Mr. Kaczarski came in and told us that the president had been shot. Then he left us, went to the teacher's lounge. He came back and said he died. And one of my class members yelled, "Yay!" And he threw her out of the room. That's what I mostly remember about the day Kennedy died. But I came here in 1958 down to South School, Betsy Ross School. And this is my 2nd grade class. And in it is Gary Morava of the Gary Morava Center here now. So he's the most famous member. That's me up there. And we went through we learned to read with Dick, Jane, and Sally. We had to wear dresses to school all the way through 8th grade. We couldn't wear pants ever, and no makeup or anything for the 8th graders. They introduced Spanish when I was a 8th grader, so we took a year of Spanish here. And I eventually did graduate. There's Mr. Rich's signature proving I did in 1966, and my 8th grade photo. And it was a good school to grow up in. We just had a lot of fun here, and playing deck tennis and playing double jump rope and running around. None of the schools were connected then, so we had to run out in the cold in our dresses. But it was a good school to grow up in.
Hi, I'm Steve Ekblad. I came here in 1958 and graduated from here in 1963. And I think the most memorable thing I can remember is I was in chemistry class, and I had memorized everything that was in the curriculum. I was really enthused about chemistry, so Mr. Graham let me run part of the classroom. So that was really exciting.
Okay, my name is Ken Haun, and I went to school here at MacArthur. I went through the whole District 23 beginning in 1960 through 1969. And I graduated from MacArthur in 1969. So the whole of the 60s I was here in this school. There's 2 pictures that are just at the front entrance, just outside this room as you walk into MacArthur. The portrait of MacArthur, and then there's a Duty Honor Country plaque, and both those were donated by my mother at the time that the school was named MacArthur. And that would be sometime, I'm sorry, but I can't recall the exact year, but it was sometime in the middle 1960s. And she donated those plaques at that time. This used to be called West School, and Sullivan School was North School, and Ross School was South School. And they were all renamed at the same time, and there was a ceremony outside of Sullivan to do that. And at that time, we donated those plaques. It used to be in the hallway, and then when they had a renovation here, they moved it to the front here. So it's always nice for me to be able to come in and to remember my mom whenever I see those two pictures. The one in particular, the duty honor country, I can remember in our home. I mean, I clearly remember it being there. So it's, you know, really a fond memory for me. I took a walk earlier around to the baseball field, which is to the south and west, where I played when I was 13, 14, and 15 years old. And it was great to see that because it's substantially in the same condition as it was. Not only did I play Little League Baseball there, but we had gym class out there. And so it was great seeing that. I can clearly remember Mr. Kozlik, who was our gym teacher, hitting balls to us out there and then having games, and him coaching us while we were out there. I was thrilled to see Mr. Rich, who was the principal at the time that I was here today for the 150-year celebration. Mr. Rich, I couldn't call him Tom if I had to. There's just no way. But it was great to see him and Mrs. Bandelow, who was one of my teachers as well, and they both, gosh, they look absolutely terrific. And you know, my memories of growing up here are all really positive. Two of my friends, Gary Krieg and Gary Knudsen, and then another Gary Knudsen's sister, Diana Laux, came here today, and it was a chance to reconnect with them. And we walked the halls, both here at MacArthur and also at Sullivan and Ross, and did a lot of reminiscing about the teachers. For instance, at Ross School, I can clearly recall being in Mrs. D'Amico's second grade class, in the classroom that is the farthest to the south and east, and the day that Kennedy was shot and killed. And I remember very well being in that classroom, and I walked there today, and it was eerie how well I remembered it. And the teachers bringing in, the teachers crying, first of all, which was very obviously unusual, and then bringing in an old black and white TV with rabbit ears, and watching a little bit what was going on, and nobody really could understand or believe it. It was just an incredibly sad time. But I remember that classroom and that particular day well, and walking through what is now the library here at MacArthur a few minutes ago, it brought back a lot of memories of playing basketball there, because at the time, what is now the library was the gymnasium, the basketball court. And I can still see the dimensions and that, and it's a little odd walking through there with all those books and computers now. I also spent some time looking at what used to be the old library, which is near the east entrance to the school over there, and the cafeteria, which the cafeteria is substantially the same as it was when I went here. So it was nice to see that, and it reminded me, you know, of being here. The rest of the school, I have to be honest with you, has been redone and remade, and frankly, I had a little trouble finding my way around it. But it did bring back great memories. And being over at Sullivan School, what is now the administrative offices, were my kindergarten classes. And so it was interesting to get the feel of those, what seemed to me to be huge rooms back in the early 1960s, to walk through there now and just see what seemed to be just regular office space. You know, it was a little bit of a different sort of a thing. I worked at the school, when I went to high school, I worked here in the summer, and so I went to the custodial office at Sullivan, which looks substantially the same as it did when I worked there, and it was interesting to remember my friends that I met and hung out with there. So all in all, I think this is a great idea. My family moved here in the late 1950s. Both my brothers went to school in District 23, and both of them have come here today. And I've met a number of people that I hadn't seen in many years, and it's just a great idea, and the sensory input is, to be honest with you, pretty incredible. And it's hard to process it all, looking through the yearbooks and all that. I'll try not to cry here, but it brought a tear to my eye earlier, remembering, you know, my mom and dad and my family and all the great times we had here. So it was, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that they did it, and maybe we'll all be back in another 150 years.
My name's Cathy Wheatley, and I was a student here from 1969 to 72 when I graduated MacArthur. We moved here in 69, so 47 years ago. And MacArthur Middle School was the first time I ever saw a lady phys ed teacher, Betty Strickland, and she's my mentor, and she is the reason I became a PE teacher. Being the new kid in 69, she took me under her wing and put me in the girls' PE leaders program, intramurals and all that, and I was hooked from there. And I always wanted to come back home to my community and teach. So in 1981, I was hired to be the Ann Sullivan and the MacArthur Junior High PE teacher, kind of like doing a welcome back Cotter, walking in Mrs. Strickland's shoes. And so Mrs. Strickland is alive and well in Texas, and I will be contacting her in the near future to let her know about this wonderful day. And I'm here to give back to the community, and I love District 23. By the way, all the greats wear number 23. If you stop and think about it in Chicago, Ryan Sandberg, 23, Michael Jordan, Devin Hester, but unfortunately the Bears traded him, and all the people who have walked these hallways of District 23. We all have a 23 on our back. So welcome home, and here's to another 150. Thank you.
My name is Al Hemd. Last name is spelled H-E-M like Mary, B like boy, D like David. I graduated second class from West School. Here's my ribbon, 1962. I started going here in about, I think I was in the kindergarten class of 1953, so probably started in the fall of 52. And I went to kindergarten to 8th grade here. My parents moved to 1202 Center Lane, which is between Camp McDonald and Thomas off Rand Road, a small dead-end street, and they moved there in August of 1950. My mother is 87, and she and my sister still live in the same house. My recollections of the kindergarten we had was the big elephant slide, and a good portion of the kids I went to kindergarten with still graduated with me in 8th grade. I went to Prospect High School for 2 years, and then, as most of the people did, I graduated in 62. We started the first graduating class of Wheeling High School. We started as juniors there, and we were the first juniors and the first seniors from the class. That was in 1966. From there, I was drafted, went to Vietnam, came back, and I'm here now retired. I live in Wheeling. I'm a fire and police commissioner there. I live with my wife of 41 years tomorrow. Today is the 6th of December. Tomorrow is the 7th, so we'll celebrate our 41st anniversary together. We have 4 children and 9 grandchildren. All of them are in the Cook County or Lake County, Illinois area. I'm retired, stay home now, and enjoy good health and enjoy the area. I think that pretty much tells everything about. I can tell you about Iverson's Perennial Gardens. Wayne Iverson was my good friend. He lived across the street from where Hersey High School is now. There was a greenhouse there. We used to play in the haystacks. There was a farm between us and where Hersey is, and that was the Lowell farm, and that's in the photographs that I left at the front reception table here. We used to play in the silos, play in the hayloft. It was a different time then. There was no trees. If you look at the pictures, it was just bare ground. You could see from here all the way you could see from our house almost halfway at least to the grade school here. We used to come on our bikes and play in the playground equipment. I played in the band here early on. Mrs. Engel was my teacher when I first started playing my cornet, and after her was Warren Burkett, and I played in the band, and he was our instructor then. Mrs. Palm was my 4th grade teacher and my 8th grade teacher. I'm pretty sure that pretty much covers everything with the area.
My name's Ken Laughlin. I graduated from MacArthur in 1966. That was the year that, the first year that the grades 6, 7, and 8 were in the school. Previously it was 7 and 8. And it was our class that ended up naming the school. Prior to this, it was West School. It had South School, North School, and West School. And it was our particular year that came up with, named after Douglas MacArthur and MacArthur Marauders. It was also, I think, the first yearbook that was in there, because I didn't have a yearbook in 7th or 6th grade. It wasn't until 8th grade. So this was a new wing on the building where there was a cafeteria and additional classrooms. Let's see what else. I also worked for District 23 in the summers when I was in through high school on the custodial staff. And remember the custodial staff at the time was Ben Eagle and Jerry Hartree, Leo Caja, and Ray Haas. And I also remember, oh, of course, it was new to have a cafeteria here. Let's see what else. Well, I certainly have fond memories of the entire school district. I pretty much remember most of my teachers and activities, and it was just a good environment. The environment at that time was really a fun environment. We had gym class with Ben Kozlik, and of course Betty Strickland was for the girls. Of course, I was also in this school when Kennedy was shot, so that was a big thing. I was in Mrs. Ryan's class, and that's when they had everybody come into the library and let people know that Kennedy had been shot. And so that was, most people who were around then remember where they were when that happened. I was right here in the school when that happened. So that was a very traumatic and difficult time for a lot of people, just because that was something unusual to have happen as a student. A lot of things changed. Nowadays you probably wouldn't go to a teacher's house, but our whole class went to one of our teacher's house because her husband was an astronomer, and we got to go to her house at night and look through a telescope. Most of the class was there. That was fun. Let's see some of the other interesting sort of field trips and things. There's one other thing about I can't remember what the other thing was about her class. Oh, when she got married, we all were invited to her wedding, which was a full Catholic wedding that I'd never been to before, and that was kind of interesting to go to your teacher's wedding. But of course, as an employee here working at what was then North School, now Sullivan, that was still before a lot of the additions were put on. So I remember I was always fascinated by the parts of the building that were still from the original structure and which parts were new. And even taking the tour today, I was able to notice that which pieces of the building were original and which ones had been added on. Actually, when I worked here too, Tom Rich was my boss then, so it was really good to see him today. And I think that's about all I can think of right now.
Hi, my name is Curtis Schmidt. I am currently the Assistant Maintenance Supervisor for School District 23. I've been here for almost 16 years. And this is my daughter, Jasmine. Married name is Sasek. And 3 of her children, Juliet, Dean, and Jaden. Sorry, Jaden.
I have a lot of kids.
Okay. Jasmine went to school here, kindergarten through 8th grade?
Kindergarten through 8th. I graduated from MacArthur in 1996. And now Juliet goes to Eisenhower. What class are you in?
Mulaney.
Mrs. Mulaney's class for first grade. And Dean will probably be at Eisenhower next year for kindergarten.
Okay.
My turn.
Your turn?
Your turn. Who are you?
No.
That's my son Jaden, and he went to Eisenhower for a little while as well.
We happen to live almost right next door to Eisenhower School, or just about maybe a block away, right across the street from the library. And our kids used to walk to school when they went to Eisenhower.
Yeah.
And then back then it was K through 5. And then she came, after 5th grade, she came here to MacArthur for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I also had 3 sons after her that did the same routine. And one of them is here today also.
And one of the things that asked us to talk about was a favorite memory. And for me, walking around, I remembered being in the school play of Oliver in, I don't know, when I was in like 7th or 8th grade.
Is that the one you had that big red dress on?
No, that was a different time.
Oh, okay.
Oliver, I would have just been dressed in like rags. But that was a lot of fun, being backstage and working with the casting crew. That was one of the highlights of my experience here.
I do remember one of the things, favorite things for me was, because we lived so close, I used to drive some of my kids to school on a snowmobile.
That was the coolest.
Yeah.
We were very popular when you drove us to school on the snowmobile.
So that was pretty neat. And it's always nice to be working here so close. Now that my granddaughter's here at school where my kids went, this is just amazing. I love going over to Eisenhower and seeing her. And when I go to her house, she says, how come I didn't see you today? You didn't stop by my room. I said, well, I can't always get there.
Yep, it's a lot of fun.
My turn.
Your turn?
Okay, Dean.
What do you hope to do here next year at school, Dean?
Do basketball and wrestling.
Basketball and wrestling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Jaden, you said that you want to come back here when you go to MacArthur for junior high. What do you look forward to doing there?
Wrestling.
Wrestling? The sports teams are very popular with them.
What's your wrestlers?
I really hope that my first grade class will be a blast this year.
Will be a blast. What year are you going to be in next year?
I'm going to be in 2nd grade.
Do you remember what school you'll be going to?
Betsy Ross.
All right.
You'll see me more when you're there because I go to Betsy Ross a lot more often.